Well, as Sri Lanka's newly re-elected president goes about rebuilding the war-torn South Asian country, many are already looking at the vast investment opportunities opening up. Our next guest is launching a Sri Lankan fund today called Leopard Sri Lanka Value Fund. It will invest in a diversified portfolio of companies listed on the Colombo Stock Exchange with an initial fundraising target of $30 million. Douglas Clayton is managing partner at Leopard Cambodia. Doug, great to have you with us today. I believe that the fundraising for the Sri Lankan fund does start today. What sort of interest, what sort of appetite do you think that you're going to see from investors out there?
Sri Lanka's been off most investors' radar screens for 27 years during the war there. So really we have to tell the story of what's happened in this country that is much more advanced than most people expect. And there's unusual opportunities that only come about when a major event like the end of a war occurs.
Clearly, though, there has been a lot of political turmoil in Sri Lanka. Why should investors now believe that the risk of that occurring time and time again has gone away?
I think the Sri Lankans are tired of the war and turmoil, and they want to try a different path going forward. The recent presidential election led to a very clear mandate by the incumbent, and I think we're going to enter a new golden age of Sri Lanka's development. So this is a great time for people to get in.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, but you're launching a couple of funds. One is the value fund that we've been talking about, and another is the Leopard Sri Lankan fund with a target of around $100 million that's actually going to look at investing in unlisted businesses there.
Yes, the private equity fund is a larger fund. We find that most Sri Lankan businesses have been cut off from capital markets for quite a while for fundraising. So there's a lot of private equity opportunities to team up with existing companies and help them take advantage of the opportunities that lie ahead.
I guess investors, if investors do want to look into this area, you've also got funds that are listed in Cambodia. You run Cambodian funds. There really are a number of barriers seen to be investing in both of these countries. Not political risk, of course, being one of them. But a lack of transparency is really also seen as quite a significant barrier to investing in these two areas. How are you running a fund there getting past this barrier?
We've been in Cambodia now for several years. We haven't had any of the sort of problems that most people would expect. Everything has gone quite smoothly for us. And in Cambodia's case, we often invest in an early stage and we help shape a company, make it transparent from the beginning. But I think in Sri Lanka's case, you have a very well-regulated capital market. You have a tradition of companies operating with public disclosure. So I think that those aren't going to be our major issues going forward.
Doug, where are the opportunities? First up in Cambodia.
Cambodia, we see great opportunities in rural development where most of the people still live in the rural areas, and some of them have the money for modern goods and services, but they haven't been provided yet. So we've been investing in things like agriculture, food processing, infrastructure development in the rural areas, and also the creation of consumer brands. In Sri Lanka, we see opportunities particularly in the tourism sector because tourism was an industry that was hurt largely from the war and the instability. So that's one of the areas. Secondly, in the reintegration of the North and the East provinces, which were cut off for a long time from the national economy.
The question is, what sort of returns do you expect to make out of your Sri Lankan fund? I mean, obviously, many of these companies in the stock market as a whole has been ignored by international investors for some time.
The stock exchange was up about 122% last year, so it clearly shows that there are high returns possible in this sort of a market. In the private equity space, there hasn't been much investment for a long time, but we're looking for at least 30% per year when we make an investment in either Sri Lanka or Cambodia.
What is your previous returns like from Cambodia?
We haven't had exit yet, so it's really too early to say, but we're confident we can achieve those projected returns.
Okay, 30% there. Great. Doug, wonderful to have you with us. Thank you so much for chatting to us. Certainly some interesting markets there that we don't usually talk about. Doug Clayton there from Leopard, Cambodia.